From 2010 to 2020, Kansas football is at the bottom of the college football world, losing to FCS teams, going on a 56-game road losing streak, and paying nearly $9 million per win. The program looked to be dead with very little historical success. That was until they hired Lance Leipold, who has turned the Jayhawks program around and has turned them into a serious Big 12 contender, following a 9-4 season last year. This is the fall and rise of Kansas football. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know who you think will win the Big 12 this year in the comment section below. Heading into the 2007 season under head coach Mark Mangino, the Jayhawks program had not found sustained success under a head coach since the 1960s. The last coach to have a winning record when he left the school was Jack Mitchell in 1966. 2007, though, would be one of the most successful seasons in school history, as they would finish with a 12-1 record and a share of the Big 12 North title. At one point during the crazy 2007 season, they would even rise as high as number 2 in the AP poll. Their lone loss to number 3 Missouri would cost them a chance at the conference title, but would earn them a berth in their first ever BCS Bowl and third major bowl appearance when they made the 2008 Orange Bowl, a game they would win. It was only the 4th time ever in school history that Kansas had won 10 games in a season, and to this day, the 12 wins in the 2007 season are still the most wins in a season for the program. Mangino's defense was ranked 12th in the nation and 4th in scoring defense. On the other side of the ball, the Jayhawks finished 2nd in scoring offense. Mangino would also become the first coach since Mitchell to achieve a winning record as a head coach at the school. From 2007 to 2008, the Jayhawks had spent 19 consecutive weeks ranked and won 20 games over a 2-year period from 2007 to 2008, going 8-5 in 2008. Kansas's rankings marked the first time the school was in the national poll since 1996. It looked like the program was on the rise, and Mangino was going to go on to be a coaching legend for the Jayhawks. That was until controversy hit the program due to Mangino's treatment of his team. More and more allegations around Mangino came out, and a 5-7 season after starting 5-0, they would go on a 7-game losing streak, did not help his case, and he would be forced to resign after the season with a final record of 50-48, becoming the second coach ever in school history to win 50 games. The school ran a probe around the program in November of 2009. In the following days, many former players described insensitive, humiliating remarks they claim he made to them during games or practice, often in front of others. Then there was support by former and current players who credited Mangino for helping them become better players and men. After the players were informed of the decision, defensive back Justin Thornton told ESPN some players will be happy to see him go, and others will be sad to see him go. He did a lot of good for a lot of people here. While at Kansas, Mangino was a part of a few scandals, including the Raymond Pendleton incident where he was caught giving the punt returner an expletive-laden rant after a penalty for excessive celebration on a 77-yard punt return touchdown against Central Michigan that was caught on video and shown on local TV stations, as well as the wider audience on YouTube, as well as accusing officials of rigging a game so the Big 12 could get a second school into the BCS game and make more money in a close loss to Texas. He issued an apology later that night. Athletic Director Lou Perkins didn't hire Mangino, and some coaches and members of the athletic department sensed Perkins was eager to make a change. They both had bulldog personalities and could often be heard screaming at each other in the football office. Had they not won the game against Iowa State in 2005, Perkins would have fired Mangino, but instead they won that game and made it to their first bowl game in over a decade in the Fort Worth Bowl. 2007 was a win or else situation, as I mentioned. Well, they proceeded to have their best season in school history. Some felt the internal investigation had been a witch hunt. According to ESPN, possible names to replace Mangino included Texas A&M offense coordinator Nolan Cromwell, a Great Wishbone quarterback at Kansas in the mid-70s, Connecticut coach Randy Edsall, Houston coach Kevin Sumlin, Mississippi State coach Dan Mullen, but the biggest name today, but not at the time, was the fact that Kansas almost landed third-year head coach Jim Harbaugh, who was coming off an 8-5 season at Stanford. It was done, a source close to the situation told CBS Sports. This all came before Harbaugh took Stanford to the Orange Bowl, which would come the next season, and before he led the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. Harbaugh felt the job suited him, and his wife Sarah was from a nearby suburb of Kansas City. His in-laws, who he is extremely close with, live 30 minutes from Kansas University. Harbaugh was so interested in Kansas at the time that he left his Stanford phone behind so it wouldn't be tracked by the school when he went to go visit Kansas. Harbaugh was honest that if the NFL came calling, he would be tempted, and if Michigan called, he was gone. Clint Bowen, a former Kansas assistant coach, told The Athletic, "Harbaugh would have taken it. I was talking to him at the time. He would have taken the job." Perkins declined to offer Harbaugh the job for 2 reasons. Harbaugh wanted to coach Stanford's bowl game, and Perkins didn't want to wait. And Perkins wanted a coach who was committed to Kansas for years to come. Instead, the job went to Turner Gill. Gill was the opposite of Mangino, known as a mild-mannered, nice guy who loved his players. He unveiled an acronym that would serve as the foundation of his program, BELIEVE, with the B standing for Believe. He was a college star at Nebraska, signed a lucrative contract to play in the CFL, but would have his playing career ended due to post-concussion issues that would never allow for him to be medically cleared to play again. He rose up the coaching rankings at Nebraska, North Texas, SMU, and served as the director of player development for the Green Bay Packers in 2005, before being named the Buffalo's head coach. He led Buffalo to the MAC championship in 2008 and finished with a 20-30 record, rebuilding the program from 2 wins his first year to 8 wins his third year, but was coming off a 5-7 record in 2009. Perkins told reporters he wants someone extremely positive as the school's next head coach. Sources also said Perkins interviewed former Tennessee coach Phil Fulmer, Minnesota coach Tim Brewster, and Houston coach Kevin Sumlin. Under Gill, discipline became a problem as players skipped tutoring sessions, causing the team's GPA to plummet, and the strength program was rough according to an assistant coach. Gill lost his first game to North Dakota State 6-3, and 3 days later, Perkins abruptly retired amid a series of scandals in the athletic department, including questions about excessive spending. Kansas would finish their first year under Gill going 3-9, and after a 2-10 season, which saw the team start 2-0 with wins over McNeese State and Northern Illinois, they proceeded to lose 10 straight games, mostly blowouts including 66-24 at Georgia Tech, 70-28 to Oklahoma State, 43-0 at Texas, and 61-7 at Texas A&M. Perkins' replacement, Shehan Zenger, fired Gill with a 5-19 record and hired Charlie Weis to replace him. In his opening press conference, Zenger said, "I set out to find the best, and I found Charlie Weis," which has now turned into a meme. Weis had gone 35-27 at Notre Dame, but his last 3 seasons saw the Irish go 16-21. He was the former New York Giants, New England Patriots, and New York Jets assistant, and served as the offense coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs and Florida Gators following his firing from Notre Dame. Dismissals of Mangino, Perkins, and Gill had cost the Kansas athletic department millions in buyouts, and the school's chancellor burned an expensive buyout. So Weis was given a 5-year, $12.5 million contract. Weis would immediately part ways with nearly 30 scholarship players, buckled down on the team's academics, instilled discipline, and engaged with the players, stunned by the lack of discipline in the program they inherited. In one instance, according to 2 former coaches, a starting defensive back told defense coordinator Dave Campo to fuck off on the sideline. They would finish the season 1-11 with their lone win over South Dakota State, and they had an embarrassing loss to Rice at home 25-24. Zenger thought Weis could be the Bill Snyder for Kansas as he started his career with the Wildcats, as well as George Matsakis, the director of football operations, who said the 2012 season felt like the early days of the Snyder. But then Weis would change his demeanor, becoming more abrasive, especially to alumni. At Big 12 Media Days, he called his team a pile of crap at one point and even threatened to get into a fistfight with fans who didn't go to the games. Another year, he said that they need to be more positive and shut the hell up. 2013 saw Kansas go 3-9 with another loss to Rice, but got their first conference win over West Virginia in 2 years. Weis wanted to be treated like he was a messiah at Kansas. And when he wasn't, he felt the fans didn't appreciate him enough and began reading message boards and began trying to make changes based off of the message boards. Following a 2-2 start, Weis was fired and left the program in ruins after loading up on JUCO players, leaving no long-term depth. Not only was Kansas dealing with their lack of history following the 2008 season, with the program now sitting in the bottom of the Big 12 with a 12-48 record the last 5 seasons, The president of the school also told boosters they could not hire anyone with a big buyout because of the athletic spending and lack of results. After reportedly interviewing only assistant coaches, Zanger settled on David Beatty. Beatty only had 2 years of coordinator experience at Rice in 2010 and Kansas in 2011, and mainly served as an assistant coach or high school coach up to that point in his career. At the time of his hiring, Beatty was the wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator at Texas A&M. Not a coach you'd expect a Power 5 school to hire. Beatty's first team would go 0-12 with a loss in the season opener to South Dakota State, 41-38. Hampered by the roster left by Weiss, they continued to struggle, going 2-10 in 2016, including a loss to Ohio at home, 1-11 in 2017 with a loss to Central Michigan at home, and on the road to Ohio, and 3-9 in 2018, getting their first FBS win against Central Michigan since they upset Texas 24-21 at home in 2016. In November of 2018, Athletic Director Jeff Long announced Beatty would not be returning following the season. Though after the announcement, they lost a close game to Kansas State 21-17, led a top 5 ranked Oklahoma team at half but lost 55-40, and fell to Texas 24-17. In March of 2019, Beatty sued the University of Kansas for breach of contract, alleging the university was avoiding to pay him a $3 million buyout. The two parties reached a $2.55 million settlement in June of 2020. They tried to fire him with cause, claiming his assistants had committed NCAA violations more than 2 years earlier. SB Nation's Stephen Godfrey also reported the lawsuit also alleges Kansas hindered Beatty's chances of getting another job by informing prospective employers he was subject of an NCAA investigation. Beatty finished with a 6-42 record. In a sworn deposition, Long struggled to recall the name of any other candidates he considered other than the man he chose to hire. He referred to former Arizona State head coach Todd Graham as Todd Graham or Grantham. He referred to Bengals assistant Lou Anarumo as a defensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm going to forget his name as well. He also tried to recall the Rams assistant Jed Fish, but said he was struggling with his name. Kansas was 18-90 since they fired Mangino, up to the point and things were only going to get worse before they got better. Long, who became athletic director in 2019, wanted to change the cycle of restricting the hiring of coaches due to the previous coaches' buyouts and went after a big name in Les Miles. Miles found success leading Oklahoma State to 3 bowl games in his first 3 years there, going 28-21, or being hired to be LSU's next head coach following Nick Saban's departure, and Miles won a national title and went 114-34, but would have 37 wins from 2012 to 2015, vacated following a scandal where a player's father was paid $180,000 by an LSU booster who was embezzling money from a children's hospital in Baton Rouge. The booster embezzled over $550,000 over a 7-year period, stealing gift cards meant for cancer patients, flying family and friends to LSU New Orleans Saints football games, and sending money to persons who did little to no work for the foundation he headed. A turn in the video I was not expecting. Miles also had other scandals at LSU and Oklahoma State, one of which had LSU ban Miles from hiring student employees to babysit and prohibited him from being alone with students. Long had worked with Miles at Michigan, and the hire was a flashy one but had trouble from the start. Before Miles was even hired, Long had Kansas video crews start filming the ESPN documentary Miles to Go. That super cheesy, stupid documentary that aired on ESPN+, where Miles acted like he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. The Miles experiment would be a disaster as Kansas would go 3-9 in 2019 and 0-9 in 2020 and was fired after the previously mentioned NCAA investigation that revealed inappropriate conduct with students while at LSU. He finished with a record of 3-18 as head coach, and Long was fired shortly after. Since the Mangino departure, Kansas had lost to North Dakota State and South Dakota State, Nicholls State, Ohio twice, Rice twice, and Coastal Carolina 3 times, and paid $8.96 million per win, which included 1 road victory, and they did not have a conference road win in over 56 games. Kansas replaced Long with Travis Goff, who was an alum and worked for the athletic department during the early part of the Mangino years. To find the next head coach, Goff called players to find out what traits made for a great Kansas coach. Players, Bowen, the same guy who said Harbaugh was going to take the Kansas job, listed as players mentioned they needed a guy who could recruit. Bowen chimed in on the call saying, "I said, I'm sorry guys, we're not going to out-recruit anybody. Let's just look at the people on this phone call. Darryl Stuckey, it was us in Emporia State for you. Aqib Talib, it was us in Mountain West Utah for you. Chris Harris, you were headed to Tulsa. Marcus Henry, you were headed to junior college. I was like, we out-evaluated people. We didn't out-recruit any of you guys. We out-evaluated. Lance Leipold, the guy who may actually be the savior of Kansas football, was the guy they settled on. Leipold won 6 Division III titles at Wisconsin Whitewater. I did a whole video on it in the comment section below. And turned Buffalo around from a 2-10 team in his second season to a 10-win season in his 4th year. He knew how to rebuild a program, and Kansas was 21-108 since Mangino was fired. Before Leipold took the job, he called Mangino to learn how to win at Kansas, and Mangino really liked the guy. Things started off rough as Kansas only won 2 games and probably should have won 3 games. They pushed a Caleb Williams-led Oklahoma team that was ranked 3rd in the nation to the brink before a BS call, in my opinion. They stunned Texas 57-56 to snap their 56-game road losing streak and also beat South Dakota. They also had a 3-point loss to TCU and a 6-point loss to West Virginia. The culture also was shifting under Leipold. He did all that without getting to host a practice until the start of fall camp. Leipold was a coach who could turn a good player into a great player and never needed to recruit highly rated guys to win. He coached under Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin in the 90s, Frank Solich at Nebraska in the early 2000s. While 2022 saw Kansas's streak of losing seasons extended to 14, the program took a massive leap forward, going 6-7 and losing to Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl 55-53 in triple overtime, their first bowl game since 2008. They even upset number 18 Oklahoma State 37-13. Leipold brought pride back into the Kansas program, and he focused on creating close, tight-knit relationships in the regional area. Kansas also had bought in bringing new facility upgrades. One former Wisconsin Whitewater quarterback told The Athletic, "What he does for a football program in a school, it really is sort of amazing, right? He takes these broken down programs and builds them up from literally nothing and turns them into the school that actually competes." The only reason Leipold left Wisconsin Whitewater was because he thought they were set up to be successful. Leipold explained to The Athletic, "I got the itch to take over a program, an upstart, a down program. Maybe I had to prove it to other people. More importantly, I wanted to prove it to myself." Leipold was warned not to take the Buffalo job, but did because he wanted to turn them into a winner. They had some of the worst facilities in not just the MAC, but all of college football, and all he did was win there. Fit became more about a player's mentality, motivation, and competitiveness. They upgraded facility after facility, never stopping to achieve greatness. Assistant Brad McCaslin said, "He once told me my job is to make sure that every year these players feel the growth of what's going on. Something is coming back to them. They're not just giving. Every year there's something different and better. If we could do that, we're going to keep people connected to this and give everything they've got." Leipold and the Buffalo players who transferred to Kansas with him taught the Jayhawks players how to win. Linebacker Rich Miller explained they didn't know how to win. They didn't know what it felt like to win. It was weird because they didn't know what they needed to work on or what they needed to be to win. 2022 saw them start 5-0 and receive a top 25 ranking before starting quarterback Jalen Daniels went down with an injury. They hosted College Game Day and sold out home games, but 2023 was where change finally came though. Kansas started the season 4-0 before Daniels went down with a season-ending injury again. Senior backup Jason Bean, who almost transferred out after the Arkansas game, decided to stay and guide the Jayhawks to another 5 wins. When number 6 Oklahoma came to town, the Jayhawks fought to the end, although they had bad weather and multiple costly mistakes. This time around though, they won 38-33, pulling the upset off in the closing minutes. They finished the 2023 season 9-4, which ended a 14-year losing season streak, and Kansas rose as high as number 16 in the college football playoff rankings and finished number 23 in the AP poll after defeating UNLV in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, their first bowl win since 2008. 3 losses came down to 1-score margins. While he has been a candidate for Washington, Texas A&M, Nebraska, and Wisconsin, he wants to make Kansas his final coaching stop. Daniels, Devin Neal, and 26 more players with starting experience are back for 2024. Kansas has a real shot at winning the Big 12 this year, especially if Daniels stays healthy. Kansas football used to be a joke program, but Lance Leipold has righted the ship, and they should be fun to watch over the next few years. What do you think? Can Kansas win the Big 12 this year? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.